The Food and Agriculture Organization, an institution leading international effort to defeat hunger and improve nutrition and food security, recently published a statistics showing that 19.4 million Nigerians across 21 states and the Federal Capital Territory are food insecure. Giving credence to this finding is the 2022 Global Hunger Index, which ranks Nigeria as number 103 out of 121 countries. This is the second consecutive year that Nigeria will be rated poor by this global index. In 2020, Nigeria ranked 98 among 107 countries, and in 2021, it was 103 out of 116 countries. The index, which has 5 levels of hunger in categorizing countries of the world, rated Nigeria with a score of 27.3%. This means that hunger in the West African country requires urgent and sustainable solutions. Although the federal government blames a number of factors for the worsening food crisis in the country, widespread insecurity and cases of flooding in certain states created more problems for the government in the quest to address the challenge in 2022. For instance, it was reported that 569,000 hectares of farmland were destroyed by flooding shortly before October 2022, while more than 1.4 million people, including farmers, were displaced from their homes. While celebrating the World Food Day program initiated by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in October, the Lagos State House of Assembly called on President Muhammadu Buhari to put more effort in checking insecurity and farmers' crises, which they believe are the leading factors fueling food insecurity. Experts advised that the Nigerian government could establish greater food security by focusing on rural development, appropriate policies for food, political stability, and the reduction of poverty. How much effort has the government made in 2022 to ensure food security across Nigeria? The year in review opened with the launching of the Central Bank of Nigeria and Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria Paddy Pyramids in Abuja by President Muhammadu Buhari. Speaking at the event, the president said the commissioning of the rice pyramids is an indication that the country was making steady and assured progress towards self-sufficiency in food production.
I am aware that the bags of paddy will be moving straight from here to rice milling plants across Nigeria, which will lead to the release of processed rice to the markets by the rice millers. The measure will aid our efforts at reducing the price of rice in Nigeria.
While pleading with Nigerians to exercise more patience with his government to achieve food security, Buhari declared that more than 4.8 million smallholder farmers had been supported by the Anchor Borrowers Program, with an increase in production of 23 agricultural commodities, including maize, rice, oil palm, cocoa, cotton, cassava, tomato, and livestock across the Federation.
Out of almost close to about 600 to 700 billion that has been disbursed towards our agricultural programs, particularly the Anchor Borrowers Program, over half of this sum, more than 300 billion, has been disbursed either through Anchor Borrowers Program or through states or to companies that are operating in the southern part of the country.
In April, President Muhammadu Buhari played host to the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, where they discussed the problem and solutions to food security in the country. Particularly, the president expressed delight over the $1.5 billion African Emergency Food Plan developed by the AFDB, planned to forestall food crises in Africa, especially as caused by the ongoing Russia-Ukraine diplomatic face-off. Buhari admitted that food insecurity was a big problem in the country. He added that the government shut international land borders for about 2 years in order to curb smuggling, and claimed that some progress was made with that particular decision. In the same month of April, the president told leaders of the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria that the country's rising prominence as Africa's fertilizer powerhouse is due to the implementation of the right policies by his government, which was also aimed at food security in the country. By the month of June, President Buhari announced plans of his government to convene a National Food Security Council, which the federal government constituted in 2018. According to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, the Food Security Council, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari and co-chaired by the Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu, would meet very quickly to address the issue of food inflation and also provide a plan and some methods by which the government can reduce the cost of food to support improved food prices for the citizenry. Despite all these interventions and more by the government, the most recent report of the National Bureau of Statistics, a government agency, indicates that inflation rate rose from 20.77% in September 2022 to 21.09% in October 2022 amid soaring food prices. The NBS says food inflation rose from 23.34% in September 2022 to 23.72% in October 2022. A World Bank report titled A Better Future for All Nigerians, Nigeria Poverty Assessment 2022, released in the month of March, identified sluggish growth, low human capital, labor market weaknesses, and exposure to shocks as factors holding Nigeria's poverty reduction. According to the report, which brings together the latest evidence on the profile and drivers of poverty in Nigeria, as many as 4 in 10 Nigerians live below the national poverty line. On Friday, November the 17th, the federal government, through the National Bureau of Statistics, launched the result of the 2022 Multidimensional Poverty Index, otherwise known as MPI survey, which is a collaborative effort between the National Bureau of Statistics, the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, the United Nations Development Programme, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. The survey, which sampled over 56,000 households across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT, was conducted between November 2021 and February 2022 and provides multi-dimensional poverty estimates at senatorial district level. According to the report, 63% of persons living within Nigeria are multidimensionally poor, while 65% of the poor, which accounts for 86 million people, live in the north. 35%, which is nearly 47 million people, live in the south. The survey also found out that the highest deprivations are the indicator of child engagement, where over half of poor children lack the intellectual stimulation that is pivotal to early childhood development. It added that child poverty is prevalent in the rural areas, with almost 90% of rural children experiencing poverty. In attempts to fight poverty, the government established several agencies, including the National Social Safety Net Project, with the objective of providing access to targeted transfers to the poor and vulnerable households under an expanded National Social Safety Net system.
We raised about 3.6 million, out of which 1 million have been paid the COVID-19 cash transfer. It was also a year that we had earmarked to further socialize the registry and its utilization across government, state governments, and donor agencies. The total estimated poor in Nigeria. It's about 82 million as of 2020 March, when MBS released a report. As of today, it is estimated to be about 92 million. 16 million of those individuals have already been captured. The second landmark achievement for them was the design of a shock-responsive framework for targeting the urban poor. As of today, that rapid response register of the urban poor has about 3.6 million validated individuals with 40 sets of indicators attributed to each of them. Their dwelling places, their assets, where they stay, with their geo-coordinates. It's allowing government and donor agencies and philanthropic, even individuals to locate those who they target as poor and vulnerable. But this is what government has achieved on its own, with only funding support from the World Bank, and has established this database that is now used not only by government, but by private entities, foundations, and the UN body, and also the World Bank across other projects. So it's something that should be celebrated. It's something that is coming out good in Nigeria, something that is putting Nigeria on a global map that we should be all proud of.
One of the biggest national dramas of the year 2022 was the protracted battle between the federal government and university lecturers. On February 14, 2022, the body of the Lecturers Academic Staff Union of Universities, popularly known as ASUU, embarked on a nationwide strike over a previous agreement which the government had not met. Specifically, ASUU wanted the government to fund the revitalization of public universities to the tune of 1.1 trillion naira, payment of earned academic allowances, adoption of the University Transparency Accountability Solution, otherwise known as UTAS, instead of the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, popularly known as IPIS, payment of promotion arrears, and the renegotiation of the 2009 ASUU FGN agreement. For 8 unbroken months in 2022, the university system remained shut to activities as the union engaged the government on various fronts with the intervention of eminent Nigerians. One of those interventions is the setting up of a committee led by Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs. In June 2022, the committee made a headway with ASUU and submitted a revised agreement with the union to the government. Many eagerly looked forward to an end to the industrial action, but the government claimed there was no fund to implement the revised agreement. Hopes were dashed once again, and the strike continued. The students, parents, and other stakeholders within the university system embarked on the quest to seek an end to the Faceoff. One of the actions in this phase was the protest of September the 19th, in which members of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, blocked the international airport in Ikeja, Lagos. Many travelers and local commuters were stranded on that day. The action was repeated in other parts of the country for maximum effect. While the strike lasted, the government approved the registration of parallel organizations to the ASUU. They are Congress of Nigerian University Academics, CONWA, and the Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Academics, NAMDA. Trend watchers believe that it was an attempt to break the perceived monopoly of ASUU. Meanwhile, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, dragged ASUU before the National Industrial Court to compel the lecturers to resume work as soon as possible. On Wednesday, September the 21st, the court ordered the union to call off the strike and resume duty with immediate effect. Not satisfied with that judgment, ASUU approached the appeal court, but the appellate court validated the judgment and ordered the university teachers to resume academic activities as soon as possible. Although the strike was finally suspended on October the 14th, that was not the end of the face-off. Despite the intervention of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, which the government earlier reportedly agreed to, the lecturers who had returned to the classrooms were paid only half of their salaries for the month of October in exercise of the government policy of no work, no pay.
So we have agreed on that as an interim measure. Hopefully, maybe subsequently we'll look for how to solve this problem once and for all. IPs have not solved problem. It has created more problems. If you want to challenge us, you are the speaker. Check the wage bill before IPs were introduced. Check the wage bill now. Check the recruitment procedure plans were produced in universities.
There are about 7-8 issues now. No work, no pay makes it an 8-point issue. The court will look at them seriously and make pronouncement on each of them. It is good for them. It is good for also for the government. So it becomes a court-resolved matter.
Similarly, the polytechnic subsector of the larger education sector also had its fair share of troubles in the year 2022. On May the 16th, 2022, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, popularly known as ASUU, embarked on a 2-week warning strike to protest federal government's non-fulfillment of aspects of a memorandum of action it signed with the union in 2021. The union insisted that the strike is justified because in 2021 it embarked on a similar industrial action in April, but suspended it in June of the same year after signing a memorandum of action with the government. ASUU added that the federal government failed to honor the agreement after 9 months, despite issuing a month ultimatum for the renewed strike on April the 4th, 2022. Some of the demands of ASUU included the commencement of payment of arrears of the new minimum wage in all affected federal polytechnics, isolated cases of underpayment and omissions, approval and release of regulatory instruments for the accreditation of institutions, management and programs, among others. By May the 30th, ASUU National Publicity Secretary Abdullahi Yelwa released a statement directing members to suspend the strike and return to the classrooms because, according to him, the government had fulfilled some of the demands of the union with hopes that the government would take advantage of the window to address the 5 outstanding items.
The status of the items in dispute as at today is captured as follows. 1. Non-release of the approved revitalization fund for the sector. Of course, as we all know, and as has been reported previously, the sum of 15 billion naira was approved by Mr. President in June 2021, and as we speak, 11 months after this approval by Mr. President, this amount has not been released to the sector. 2. Non-release of arrears of the new minimum wage owed our members. The old 10 months arrears for the polytechnics is yet to be released. The composite amount covering all federal tertiary institutions to the approximate figure of 19 billion naira currently exists as an AIE. What I mean by an AIE is an authority to incur expenditure in the Accountant General's office.
Nigeria as a country is governed on a 3-tier system, which include the federal, state and local government, headed by the president, governor, and chairman respectively. Like years before, 2022 was marked by interactions among these layers of public administration. Issues like security, economy, and politics remained at the forefront of interactions among them throughout the year. 2022 as an election year saw quite a number of political engagements among this government across the nation, especially between the state governors and the federal government. The clamor for the southern part of the nation to produce the next president of the country was widespread. The general notion is that since the incumbent emerged from the north in 2015 and 2019, his successor should come from the south. The Southern Governors Forum particularly led this clamor, holding series of meetings and on different occasions insisting that nothing short of a president of Southern extraction will be the best for the country in the name of equity and political balance in 2023 and beyond.
It's not issue of threats, it's not issue of consequences. Our position on this matter is based on fairness and equity. And we believe that the only thing that is equitable in the circumstance in which we have found ourselves in this country, the North having produced a president for 8 years, is for the South to produce the next president. And we have asked a very important question. How strong? You say a prayer group. We are not a prayer group. We are representing our people, and we have tried to do is to reflect what I would call the wish of the people in the southern part of the country. That look, let us, at least for now, continue to have a rotation of presidency along north and south. And if the time comes, you might change it. But for now, the North haven't held on to with my president, that is President Muhammadu Buhari, by the grace of Almighty God, spending 8 years. The next president must come down south, who also spend another 8 years, by the grace of God.
The subject of security also occupied the front burner between the FG and the governors. At a meeting in September, the Southern Governors Forum repeated its stand that state police is the only solution to the country's incessant security challenges. Chairman of the forum and Governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, who spoke on behalf of his colleagues after the meeting, said the surest path to peace and progress in Nigeria was to put in place an arrangement for states to run their own individual police organizations. By September, the Northern Governors Forum, which had hitherto remained conservative on matters of security, threw their weight behind the establishment of state police system. At a meeting with the Northern Traditional Rulers Council, the 19 governors of Northern State called for the immediate establishment of state police in order to address the continued insecurity challenges in the country, with kidnapping, massive killing, and wanton destruction of property at the forefront. Akeredolu remained on the call for state police throughout the year. In December, during the meeting of the 36th Attorney General of the Federation held in Lagos, the governor repeated the call with a warning that the inability of the federal government to secure life and property would soon leave citizens with no choice but to arm themselves in self-defense, stressing that the Nigerian police had been overwhelmed. But the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who was also at the event, disagreed with Mr. Akeredolu. He said the state police system will not work because state governors would abuse the system. He added that the state chief executives could not continue to agitate for restructuring and state police when they were responsible for the compromise and mismanagement of the current system. Another subject of contention between the state and federal government in 2022 was a debate on the creation of grazing roads for herders. The Southern Governors Forum had on May the 11th met in Asaba, the Delta State capital, to deliberate on the prevalent insecurity and other issues affecting the region. There, and at other meetings during the year, they agreed that all state governments across the southern region should make laws to ban open grazing in their domains. But the federal government was always quick to remind the governors of its resolution to reintroduce the grazing roads. In January, for instance, President Buhari clearly stated that one sure way of resolving the recurrent clashes between the herders and farmers across Nigeria is to back cattle grazing roads across the nation. However, unlike in the matter of state police, most northern governors have already embarked upon the creation of grazing roads in the respective states. Local government autonomy also created some interactions among the three tiers of government, with Mr. Buhari accusing the governors of fraudulently converting funds meant for the local government under them for something else. While hosting members of the Senior Executive Course 44 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Abuja early December, President Buhari frontally accused governors of collecting money on behalf of local councils in their states, only to remit just half of such allocations to the chairman. Although he did not mention the specific governors, but the governors individually reacted afterwards, each claiming not to be on the list of such governors, including those who will not want any form of autonomy for local government in their states. In March, the National Assembly agreed to amend the Constitution to repeal the state joint local government account and provide for a special account where all allocations due to the local government councils from the federation account and state government shall be paid. 16 out of 20 state assemblies have already voted in favor of LG autonomy, but the amendment requires at least 24 to vote to make it a law, although others are still expected to vote, but Lagos, Ekiti and Benue states have already voted against it, while Adamawa State abstained from voting. The year 2022 will go down in the annals of the West African nation as one full of hopes for a better future as fresh rounds of elections loom. Many believe that the outcome of the 2023 general poll will go a long way in determining what happens to the fight against poverty, social and food security, as well as intergovernmental relations. Oba Adeoye, Arise News, Lagos.